Hi there, folks. Welcome to the podcast. This is Stinchfield, the podcast. It is so great to be with you. This is what happens. You forget to plug the microphone in. Things don't work. Live TV, no big deal. We got it going. Hey, folks, this is very important. You know how we used to say the Democrats control the mainstream media? There is a coup underway in Washington, D.C. No longer do the Democrats control the mainstream media. I am now convinced the media controls the Democrats. The media calls the shots. The media sets the agenda. The media decides who's running, who's not running. The media is the kingmaker in Washington. That's solidified. Now when we see what is going on with Joe Biden issues a letter today, and he doubles down on he's staying in the race, and he explains all of the things that he has done for the country, and really it amounts to ruining this nation. But he says he's staying in. The media isn't having any of it. How do I know this? When you look at George Stephanopoulos' interview with Joe Biden on Friday, when George Stephanopoulos has turned on the Democrat sitting president, you know all is lost. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what happens to the money if Joe Biden steps down. This is very, very important. I've done a lot of research on this, and there's only two things that 100% can be done with the money, and there's a lot of things that maybe could be done with the money, depending on what the Federal Elections Commission says. All of this is what we're going to talk about today on the program, and I so appreciate you tuning in with me today as well. Let me remind you, brought to you by the wellness company, Stinchfield is. By the way, do you have prescription medications as part of your emergency preparedness plan? We got a hurricane moving into Texas. Power goes out. Say your kids need prescription medications, antivirals, antiparasitics, antibiotics. Do you have it on hand? What if the drugstores are closed? Cyber attacks. We already saw that a few weeks ago. You've got to have prescription medications as part of that plan. Only one company will give you the kits necessary to keep you and your family safe at one shot. They're so great, the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, twc.health/grant. The website is on your screen right there. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, folks, it is great to be along with you today as we go through this process of trying to figure out exactly what needs to happen when it comes to Joe Biden, when it comes to the nation. Clearly, in my mind, what needs to happen is President Trump needs to win and all of these problems are put behind us. But we've got about 5 months to get through before that happens. So let's start out first with Joe Biden trying to rescue his presidency from a mainstream media that is out to sink him now. They see the writing on the wall. I don't know if you heard, 538, okay, the polling firm now gives Joe Biden a 28% chance of winning. 28% chance. That is way back in the polls. And new polls out again showing President Trump ahead in all the swing states, except there's this Bloomberg poll that shows Biden winning, I think, in Michigan. But it also shows Trump up 7 points in Pennsylvania. I want to throw all these polls out. And I think President Trump is up a little bit in all of these states, the swing states. And I think he's up in some states where it's going to be a shocker. But in the end, 538 comes up. Joe Biden has a 28% chance of winning. The mainstream media sees this. Now, we used to say that the Democrats control the media. Democrats would call up Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama. Hey, I want you to put this story in. We want you to go down this aisle, talk about this. I don't believe that is happening in great numbers like it used to. I'm sure Democrat lawmakers still call up their friends in the media and say, hey, let's do a story. But right now what I see happening is the media is agenda setting. The media is king making. The media is deciding what needs to be talked about and what doesn't, and they're putting the pressure on Democrat lawmakers who don't go along with them. So what happens? The walls start to close in on Joe Biden. So he releases this letter today. I'm all over the map. I had my slate up for a little bit there, but Joe Biden releases a letter today about where he is in the race and how he's staying in, and he is not backing down and all of these things. Now, as he does that, Joe Biden decides to go on Morning Joe. So Joe Biden decides to go on Morning Joe, and instead of reassuring the nation that he's with it, he becomes angry again, like a dementia-ridden patient. Angry, yelling and screaming on the phone. This does not do him well.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot.
Did he just call Joe Scarborough pal? What are you mad at Scarborough for? He's the one that was defending you the whole time, much to the dismay of the nation that he was lying to.
Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch.
He always says, watch me, he says. And all I do, I watch him shake hands with the ghosts. I watch him not know where to go. I watch him get lost on stage. I watch him destroy the country. That's what I've been watching.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
It's what's going to happen, so be very, very careful. The reality is Joe Biden needs to step down. I don't want him to because I want to run against him. I really do. But this angry old Joe is a real issue for national security, for the Democrats, for the fate of this nation, for the fate of the world. Angry Joe, we do not need a nursing home patient screaming and yelling about his pudding in the Oval Office sitting behind the Resolute desk. That's a disaster. Now, I told you that I firmly believe that the media is now controlling the Democrats. The media is setting the tone. And I go back to George Stephanopoulos, right? This interview he did, I've never heard Stephanopoulos be tough with a Democrat like this, but listen.
Let's start with the debate. You and your team have said you had a bad night, but your friend Nancy Pelosi actually framed the question that I think is on the minds of millions of Americans. Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
You know, you say you were exhausted, and I know you've said that before as well, but you came, and you did have a tough month, but you came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. Matter of fact, the docs with me, I asked them if they did a COVID test because they're trying to figure out what was wrong. They did a test to see whether or not I had some infection, a virus. I didn't. They just had a really bad cold.
So the reality is, folks, those are decent questions from George Stephanopoulos. I told you I ran into him in New York City on Saturday, of all people to run into. I run into George Stephanopoulos and had a brief exchange of words with him. Nothing crazy or anything. Brief exchange of words. I told him I hammer away at you all the time, and he said, I know you do. And that was really the extent of it. But I had been wondering, what was the goal of this interview? Was it to prop Joe Biden up or was it to take him down? And as I go back and look at this, I believe the goal of this interview was actually to continue the sinkage of Joe Biden. He pressed Joe Biden on numerous issues here over and over and over again, which was a very, very good thing that he did. because Joe Biden, again, exposed himself as being in really, really bad straits. So, again, Joe Biden has a really bad weekend. And I'm going to talk about the weekend he had. But first, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com is where I want you to go, /Grant. PatriotMobile.com /Grant. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. In fact, this is a Patriot One plan that I'm on. One phone, my iPhone, and 2 networks, which means 2 different lines on 2 different networks. So, for example, when I went to New York City, my main line wasn't working that great, so I used the T-Mobile line. It worked better in New York City for whatever reason. So I was using the other line in New York because I had better service. Now, as a business owner, I have a business line coming into this phone as well as my personal line. That is awesome as well. Patriot Mobile is the only cell phone company that can do this. PatriotMobile.com /Grant. PatriotMobile.com /Grant. I want you to pay a visit today. Use the promo code GRANT for free activation. And don't forget, they're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. The mainstream media is coming after them because they're putting up such a fight against the tyrannical overreach that we're seeing from Biden and the Democrats. And the media wants Patriot Mobile destroyed, which is why I backed them up, and it's why you should too. There's no excuse not to make the switch today. They'll make you a deal to switch also. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. You tell them Grant Stinchfield sent you and use that promo code GRANT. All right. So Joe Biden did not have a very good weekend at all. First off, this is him on the radio with that poor reporter who lost her job because she used questions that the Biden campaign provided her. Now, I would venture to say most reporters in the mainstream media, you're not supposed to do it. It goes against all journalistic standards. When I worked at NBC, we had a real handbook and guidebook that says you could not provide questions to an interviewer, an interviewee, and you could not take questions from them. You know, be provided with what you had to do your own deal. Now, do I think that was really happening? No, which is why I can't believe they fired her. But this was Joe Biden's statement about, just listen carefully. Apparently, he thinks he was a black vice president.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, served with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
This is a standard line. Nothing is beyond our capacity. This is the United States of America. Well, I'm with you. This is the greatest nation in the world. We ain't doing so well under you, Joe Biden. And he said he was the first black woman vice president under a black president. Now, you know he was getting confused, Kamala Harris serving under him and him being a vice president serving under the first black president in Barack Obama. But still, all of this lends credence to the idea that his mind does not work. It doesn't, folks. I'm sorry. Here's another example. He's talking about, he's in Philadelphia, I guess, and he's talking about running for Senate. Now, remember, Joe Biden was a senator from Delaware, not Pennsylvania, Delaware.
But look, even when I was running for Senate, each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular got me across the line. No, I'm not joking. Look, even when I was running for Senate, and each time I ran, quite frankly, not a joke, Philadelphia in particular got me across the line. No, I'm not joking. No, I mean it seriously. Organizationally and in terms of fundraising, the whole deal. But look, here's the deal. This election is going to be about block and tackling. Simple, basic.
All right. First off, Philadelphia got him over the line. You're a Delaware senator. People in Philadelphia can't vote for you. People in Philadelphia can't vote for you if you're running for Senate in Delaware. Unless you just said the quiet part out loud. Maybe you're stealing votes from there, too. I don't know. But this is how far outside the bounds of reality that Joe Biden is. And quite frankly, folks, excuse me, it is frightening. Now, the only way the Democrats can move forward is by getting him out of there. The problem is he's going to have to step down. They're not going to institute the 25th Amendment. I do think the 25th Amendment could be used in this case. But let me say something else that I've realized now over the last week that I did not realize. I did not realize just how much control Jill Biden had over this presidency. I always told you that Joe Biden had his strings being pulled by Barack Obama, George Soros, Susan Rice, and those people. I never put Jill Biden on the list. I would now. I believe Jill Biden has an active role in running this White House. I believe Jill Biden is more of the sitting president than Joe Biden is. We didn't elect Jill Biden to be president. Truth is, we didn't elect Joe Biden to be president either. But this is the fate we find ourselves in. A common sense person would tell you if the Democrats want to move forward, have any chance of winning, they got to move him out. The problem is Kamala's polling against President Trump lower than Joe Biden. Not a problem for us, but a problem for the Democrats. So what do? They have some real issues because of the money. So I've really been researching this, and don't let anybody tell you exactly what can happen with the money because it is an unknown, okay? So the Democrats have about $240 million cash on hand between different committees, Joe Biden's campaign, $240 million cash on hand. The super PACs and the other committees can spend money wherever they want. The Biden campaign can't. They have about $90 million on hand, the Biden campaign. Here's what can happen beyond a shadow of a doubt. You're allowed to do. There's two forms of money that comes into the Biden campaign, primary money and general election money, and it's split off. The primary money, whatever's left over, can be dubbed excess money. It can go back to the Democrat National Committee. That's 100% by law. They could do that if Joe Biden is to step down. The general money cannot. The general money, 100% by law, can be returned to the donors. Just return the money. They're not going to want to return $90 million. So now the question becomes, with Kamala Harris in there, is that $90 million hers because her name is on the committee? I would probably back Democrats that it's logical to say Joe Biden steps down. She's been the vice president for 4 years. This was clearly a team effort. The money was designed to go to this campaign. She's taking over the reins. You could make that argument. Certainly Republicans will challenge that. I don't have a problem with challenging it. But I think in the end, she's going to win out, if I'm being intellectually honest, and she can keep that money. But if anybody tells you she absolutely can, they don't know. The Federal Elections Commission has to rule on that. It is not cut and dry. Now, what happens if she stayed as vice president? They brought somebody else in to be president. So they brought Gavin Newsom in. Now it becomes a little bit different because this is a different ticket. This was not someone that was on. I don't think the money could go if she's not president. So then the issue becomes if Kamala is out altogether, where does the money go now? You've got $90 million. Nobody on the ticket that money was given. Biden-Harris campaign is kaput. Everybody's gone. There is a thought that you could give it to a super PAC and then let them spend it how they want with no coordination with the campaign. But I'm not convinced that's legit. There's some lawyers who say it is. There's lawyers who say it isn't. I can't tell you one way or the other. It's going to take a ruling by the Federal Elections Committee. Now, my guess is the Democrats will act fast. If Joe Biden was to step down, they'll transfer that money right away to a super PAC. That super PAC will spend it, and they'll have no way to get it back. And they'll say, slap us on the wrist. Too bad, so sad. That's how the Democrats operate. So Republicans better be ready for this. If they want to fight against this money being spent, if Joe Biden and Kamala are gone, they better be ready with the legal wherewithal to do that. Okay? I'm not sure that they are going to be ready to do that. All right. So tonight on the Real America's Voice show, we're going to talk more about this. We've got Will Scharf, one of President Trump's really great attorneys, on the program to see where this legal fight for President Trump goes now that the Supreme Court ruling is out. That was really, the more I look at it, the more I see that it was in President Trump's favor. We're going to talk about all of that today on the program as well. So stick around as we go into the Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to do it for the podcast today. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks to all of you. We'll see you back here soon.